When you think of Paris, what comes to mind? You know, the incredible food, the art, the culture, all those beautiful romantic buildings that make it one of the most iconic cities in the entire world. But then, you see this huge, dark, monolithic tower that just feels wrong. Well, that's the Tour Montparnasse.
I mean, get this. This building is so reviled that just 4 years after it opened, the city literally banned any new buildings over 7 stories tall. For 33 years! So what happened? Why does this one single building get such a visceral reaction? Okay, let's get into it.
The heart of the problem, it really just boils down to this: scale. On one side, you've got the Tour Montparnasse, this 210-meter giant, and on the other, a classic Parisian building, which tops out at around, 37 meters? It's not just a different style of building. It's like it's from a different planet, just dropped right into the middle of this perfectly uniform city.
To really wrap your head around why this tower is such an outrage, we first have to understand the very specific architectural language that Paris speaks. There are rules to its beauty, and well, this tower breaks every single one of them. The man we have to thank for these rules is Baron Haussmann. Back in the mid-19th century, he basically bulldozed and completely remodeled Paris, tearing down the old medieval streets to create the grand, unified city we know today, all those long boulevards in that neoclassical style. He essentially wrote the city's visual code.
And this was the code he wrote. It was strict. Every new building had to follow the same template. That beautiful cream-colored limestone, a strict height limit, shops and cafes on the ground floor, and that iconic gray mansard roof. It's what creates that incredible, harmonious look. The entire city was designed to be like a single, massive work of art.
So if Paris was so perfect, why on earth would anyone build that tower? Well, after World War II, that perfection started to feel a little bit like a prison. Paris was beautiful, sure, but it also felt stuck. You have to remember, this is the 1950s. The world was changing, and fast. While cities like New York and London were throwing up skyscrapers and building these modern economies, Paris felt, well, kind of run down. A city of old workshops and artist studios, its beautiful buildings started to look less like an asset and more like a relic that was holding it back from the future.
So all that pressure, that feeling of being left behind, that's what sparked the main Montparnasse plan back in 1959. The whole vision was to create this buzzing, modern destination right in the heart of the city, to prove to the world that Paris could compete. Now, it was a long process, but by 1970, after building a new train station and some housing, construction on the tower finally kicked off.
But look, having a business plan is one thing. Actually building this beast was a whole other challenge. Because behind that controversial facade, there's a story of some absolutely incredible engineering.
I mean, just imagine you're the engineer on this project. This is your nightmare scenario. The ground beneath you is totally unstable, it's full of old quarries, and as if that's not bad enough, a super busy metro line runs right through the middle of the site. So how in the world do you build a 122,000-ton skyscraper on top of that without the whole thing just collapsing?
Well, the solution they came up with was, frankly, brilliant. First, they basically built a massive concrete cage around the metro tunnel to reinforce it. Then, they sank these enormous foundation piles deep into the ground on either side of the tunnel, so they weren't putting any direct pressure on it. Finally, they built a structure on top that spread the tower's immense weight out evenly. They didn't solve the problem, they just built right over it.
And just check out this number: 60 meters. That's how deep those 56 foundation piles had to go just to find stable ground. To give you some perspective, that's deeper than the Arc de Triomphe is tall. It's a colossal structure, almost a third of the tower's visible height, completely hidden underground, just to hold the whole thing up. It's wild.
For a new kind of building, they needed a new kind of construction. So the tower's concrete core was built using this really clever technique called slip forming. Just picture a mold that literally climbs up the building as the concrete inside it hardens. It meant the core was just growing non-stop, 24/7, shooting up at a rate of about 30 centimeters every single day.
So by 1973, this engineering marvel was complete. But down on the street, Parisians had already made up their minds. The tower was supposed to be a symbol of a new, modern Paris, but it turns out there was one problem. Everyone actually quite liked the old one.
And you can see why. I mean, the clash was just so obvious in every single detail. You have dark glass versus cream limestone, a monolithic giant versus a human-scale design, 210 meters versus 37. It was the complete opposite of Paris in every conceivable way. It didn't just stand out, it felt like a declaration of war on the city's identity.
You know, you'd think maybe with time people might warm up to it, like they did with the Eiffel Tower or the Pompidou Center. But nope, not this one. This quote really says it all. The hatred for the Tour Montparnasse is basically a permanent feature of the Parisian landscape now.
Today, a lot of people call it the phantom. And it fits, right? It doesn't just sit there, it looms. It's this dark, brooding presence on the skyline that you just can't escape. A constant reminder of a vision for Paris that Paris itself totally rejected.
But now, there's a really radical plan to try and fix it. A massive renovation is in the works to transform the tower with a transparent, glazed facade and these green sky gardens running up the side. And the goal? It's to break up that solid dark shape and, essentially, make the tower just disappear.
And this leaves us with a really fascinating question, doesn't it? The new design looks amazing, but do we lose something by erasing this iconic, if hated, piece of architecture? Is the only way for Parisians to finally love this building to pretend it isn't actually there?